Okay, good morning. So we are doing today Vav Amud Aleph. We are in the middle of Hey Amud Beis, towards the end of the narrow lines. After having all of these questions, I'm looking there. Rav Nachman asked Rav Yitzchak. So I guess it was a long day. So the Gemara says Rav Nachman, Rav Yitzchak have a Yasav Sudasa, like four lines from the wide lines. Rav Nachman, Rav Yitzchak sat down and had a meal together. So Amalei Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman said to Rav Yitzchak, Lema Mar Milsa. Let the master, let Rabbi Yitzchak say something. So Amalei Hachi Am Rabbi Yechanan, Ein Mesichin L'Suda. This is what Rabbi Yechanan said. He says, don't talk during the meal. So that's a good response. You want me to say something? Well, the thing I'm going to say is that you shouldn't say anything. But there's a reason for it. Not because we're so against talking, but rather because Shem Yakim Kana Leveshet. Right? Maybe you're going to have a situation because you're yapping so much and also trying to chew and digest that's going to end up that the food's going to go down the wrong pipe. A person could choke. Instead of going down the esophagus, it goes down the trachea, and then you have problems. If you have a sakona, then it's going to be an issue. Now, from the line of the Gemara over here, who does it sound like is eating by whose house? So I think we said that it sounds like Reb Nachman is the host. Reb Yisrael is eating there, and he says to him to say something. Then Barashi seems to make it not that way. That really this because we're going to see in a second that when they leave each other, Rashi says Rav Nachman and Rav Yitzchak. When Rav Nachman leaves Rav Yitzchak, it sounds like it was really Rav Yitzchak who's the host. But if he was the host, then it doesn't sound like he would be talking that way, right? The host is going to be the one who says, "Nu, say something," not the guest telling the host to say something. So I'm not 100% sure. Okay, but this conversation gets even better. So after Basar Desod, after they finished eating, so Rabbi Yechanan said the following: Yaakov Avinu loy meis. Yaakov Avinu didn't die. So that's what Rabbi Yitzchak says to Rav Nachman, and he quotes it again from Rabbi Yechanan. So Amar Lei. So Rabbi Yechanan, I'm sorry. So Rabbi Nachman now responds to Rabbi Yitzchak: V'chi b'chdi saftu saftanya, v'chantu chantaya, v'kavru kavraya. She says, so it was for nothing that they had a spade in for him, that they made him into a mummy, that they buried him. The whole end of Parsh Vayechi deals with, the whole Parsh Vayechi deals with Yaakov Avinu preparation for his eventual demise. And the second half of the Parsh deals with once he passed away. So then Yosef had him made into a mummy. That was the honorable thing to do in those days. And then after that period was finished, so then he asked permission for power to go bury him. And they have they've been in Garin Ha'atah, they have a Evel Kaved Ma'id, big funeral. Was nobody in the casket? What was going on? Did they not mummify him? Was it like an apparition? So what's Rabbi Yitzchak's response to Rabbi Nachman? Amar Mikrani Deresh. What are you asking questions of me? I'm dashing a pasuk. Shneimar Al Tirav the Yaakov, no Hashem. Hashem, as it were, is saying, do not be afraid, my servant Jacob. Obviously, Pashup Pshat is a reference to the Jewish people. Al Techas Yisrael, right? Those Jewish people shouldn't be afraid. They shouldn't be scared. I'm going to save you from afar. And your descendants, your children, from the land that are across the ocean, meaning far away. Makish Hulazarai. The Torah is comparing Yaakov Avinu to his descendants, to his children. Mazar b'chayim, afu b'chayim, just like his children are alive, his descendants remain, so too he's alive as well. So, let's stop over here for a second. Now, this Gemara is brought down by Rashi and Chumash, right? How did Rashi get this? Where does this Gemara come from? Yaakov Avinu loy meis. What's the basis of it? So look at Tosfos. Tosfos explains, because if you look, Pasuk says Vayigva Vayosef al Amav. What's missing? It doesn't say Vayamas. If you look by Avram Avinu Paras Chaisar, you look by Yisrael Avinu Paras Vayishlach, it says Vayigva Vayamas Vayosef al Amav. That's a lashon Vayigva Vayamas, then Vayosef. Vayakam by Vayichi, it only says Vayigva. And Vayasef, it doesn't say Vayamas. That's the basis where we're getting the idea that Yaakov Avinu was loin mace. Now, when he's explaining now, and explaining that, listen, Mikra ani derish. What is the response? Mikra ani derish. What is the response that he's giving to Rav Nachman? I'm dashing a pasuk. No. So what? He's saying something I believe substantive. And the substantive point is the Gemara in Shabbos Hamagimel. Gemara over there tells us that that what do you call? I'm forgetting it's Rav Kahana. I'm forgetting who it was right now. I apologize. But the Gemara tells us over there that he learned Kol Torah Kula, and he didn't know that Ein Mikra Yotzim De Pshuta. Didn't realize that. What do you mean? You learn Kol Torah Kula, you don't know that Ein Mikra Yotzim De Pshuta? Yeah, somehow he got that. He got to know a whole Torah and didn't know that Ein Mikra Yotzim De Pshuta. If you look in Chumash, you'll see that although Rashi says that, the Ramban does not say that. Ramban says, obviously, Pashup Pshat, this is what happened was that he passed away. But I'm saying that strongly on the Ramban. That the Ramban is, to my mind, clearly buying into the fact that he died as a matter of pshat, but I'm not sure he bluntly says it. So I want to take that back for a bit. Not that he said it so strong. Okay. But what I do want to say is this, and this is a fundamental point, not for this Gemara. It's a fundamental point for all Gemaras that do anything like this in terms of psukim, and that is that when we say Ein Mikra Yotzim De Pshuta, that means to say that the Torah is multivalent. Huh? Hello. What does multivalent mean? It means that it exists on a variety of levels. But one level always remains, and that's Pshat. Pashup Pshat always remains. But that doesn't mean to say that just because Pashup Pshat happened, that you can't learn out additional things out of the text. Again, we've done this whole topic in our Sunday classes of Ayim Panam L'Torah, of Mem Times Panam L'Tamim L'Tayr. That is fundamental, it's predicated on. So when Rav Nachman is asking, what are you talking about? And his response is, what is he? He's not shutting off the conversation. Of course Yaakov died. No one's denying Yaakov died. Again, if Rashi in Chumash would say the same, I don't know if Rashi would say the same or not. I don't know. And that's not my point here. My point is, for us, 100% Yaakov died. There's no question about it. That's obviously what happened. But that doesn't stop the conversation. Yaakov died doesn't mean he's not alive. Of course he died. And he also has aspects of him that are living on. As many of the commentaries point out, we, the Jewish people, are around thousands of years later. We're the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Yaakov Avinu. Of course he's alive. Some of the Farshim note, the Ein Shmuel points out, if you look at all the other nations that come out of Avram and come out of Yitzchak, are there any Minyanim left that you want to talk about? Yishbaks, Shuachs. Anybody speak to any Edomites, Eliphazites? No. Yishmael, whether or not Yishmael the Arabs adopted Yishmael, is a whole other story. I don't know exactly, but one thing is for sure: all these nations are not around. We are, and we attribute one of our patriarchs is Yaakov Avinu. So of course Yaakov Avinu is alive in that sense. All right. Continues the Gemara. The Gemara said, so Ma'azar b'chaim, Afu b'chaim, just like his children are alive, so too he is. Yeah. So now, I have one more question I want to ask about this Gemara. Do you remember how he said on all these things? It's like amazing. Every time Rav Nachman asks Yisrael a question about a pasuk, what's your Yisrael response? Oh, Hachem Rabbi Yochanan. And I was like blown away, right? And I know Rabbi Yochanan knows Tanakh, but not only did he know Tanakh, but he gave shir on Tanakh. But look over here when he asked the question. He said, Hachem Rabbi Yochanan, Yaakov Avinu lo meis. So Rav Nachman says, what his question? So I'm like, Mikrani Derish. What's the response to Mikrani Derish? He's not being darshaning anything. Isn't he responding with what Rabbi Yechanan said? What do you mean, Mikrani Derish? I'm not darshaning the pasuk. He's quoting Rabbi Yechanan, his Rebbe. He doesn't have anything to say for himself. He's quoting. So what do you mean, Mikrani Derish? So it could be that what this Gemara is answering, I didn't see anybody who says it, but it's a suggestion. It could be what Mikrani Derish here is saying, is not saying Mikrani Derish that I darshan this whole thing. It's really not from Rabbi Yechon, it's really from me the whole time. It's my eigen and Baruch source. No. Mikrani Derish is listen. You have a question, Rabbi Yechon said, I hear, but Mikrani Derish, I'm now going to tell you a puzzle that I darshan to explain to you what he meant. I know from Rabbi Yechanan, Yaakov Avinu loy meis. The puzzle says, Vayigva, Vayosef Elam, doesn't say Vayomas. That's what I heard. You asked me a kasha, a fair question. It sounds like Pasuk he did die. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you my drasha. My drasha is the next pasuk. V'atir of the Yaakov, Mazar b'chaim, Afu b'chaim. That's my way of explaining what Rabbi Yechanan said. Because you're not taking it as Pasuk that Rabbi Yechanan literally said that, and I hear you, and now I'm going to tell you how I can explain it as well. That's maybe the way to answer the Gemara. Okay. All right, now we have another line. This time it's not coming from Rabbi Yechanan. And it's interesting, right? Because we know the Gemara told in Brachas Chaf, right? It's also Gemara in Bamatzia Pei Gimel, that Rabbi Yechanan was from the handsomest people. Pei Dal, I'm sorry. And from the handsomest people alive, right? Gemara says over there that he had like the beauty of Yaakov Avinu. Like that's how amazingly handsome he was. And he would go to the mikveh and sit there so that the woman should see him in order to be able to have conceive children that were so handsome like him, because that's how handsome he looked, and that's how much people believed in what was known as imprinting, a science of imprinting in those days. Yeah, whether or not that's true today in the science, you have to look it up. I'm not sure. But moving on. So what did Rabbi Yitzchak say? This time not in the name of Rabbi Yechanan. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak. Rachav, Yad Nikri. Whoever says Rachav is going to have a carry. So Rav Nachman says, Rav Nachman, I know Amina, says, I said it. Nothing happened to me. There are those that asked, but I don't remember now who. But there were those that asked, well, how could he test himself? If Rav Nachman heard that Bittul says that you can't, he didn't say you can't say, but if he says, so then why are you Rav Nachman doing, what's it called, hypothesis? Why are you doing a scientific experiment? You should be avoiding it because of what Ritzlik said. So the answer that I saw given, again, I don't remember who right now. I apologize, but I saw one of the Paiskim said, Rav Nachman knew about himself. He was Meshayah Ba'atzveh. It's not going to cause him any problems. That's why he wanted to test it out and see what he's talking about. So when he says, listen, I tried out, your experiment doesn't actually do anything, it doesn't work. So he said, Makira. Says, what I'm talking about is only if you knew her, only if you recognized her. If you didn't know her, you didn't recognize her, then we're not talking about this actually going to have a Maisa. Obviously not. What do you mean? So, look at Taisvis, and then see what Taisvis comes out as a matter of practical halacha. What does Taisvis say? B'yoid Makira. Pirish. B'yoida means shabola. Yoda doesn't mean you know her. Yoda means you actually knew her intimately. In other words, if you just simply knew Rachav, right, the Megillah, how beautiful Rachav was, but Taisvis is saying that Yoda means that you knew her in an intimate way, right? Which you could have said, well, Yoda maybe didn't have to go that way. Maybe you recognized it from the block, the store. You could have gone there. No, all the way. Yeah. Umakira sherois. Makira means that you recognize it, means that you're actually seeing her. So where's the practical nafkamina come out? We'll have the place can talk about this and raising the Gemara in Brachas Chav Daled. Everybody remembers we had over there all the various things that are erva. So we had Sheikh B'isha Erva, Seir B'isha Erva. One of them was Kol B'isha Erva. So what about when it comes to music? Right, music. People say it's something's an erva. It could be causing problems, but maybe we can use it as a limitation with this idea of Yoda Makira. That is to say, you have to recognize the person. Meaning, like if you would see, like Gemara says there in Brachas, also on the end of the parak, of erva ba'ashoshes, right? If you have one of those see-through partitions, you see an erva, that's still considered a right, even though you have a partition, but it's glass doesn't mean anything. So for practical ramifications, the price comes to that TV, right? A TV screen is exactly that. It could be there's not in front of you, but seeing a picture that is 100% no different than seeing the person in a physical sense. But when it comes to music, there are those that are makel, using this Gemara in part, that it has to be some recognition. But if you're just hearing an apparition, and you hear a voice, then that itself doesn't do anything. The most famous sort of pesach on that side is Ravad Yosef, who supposedly liked the music of Kulthum. Don't ask me who she was; I have no idea. But some sort of Arab singer from Egypt or something. Yeah, and supposedly he was more makel on the radio. Okay. Start the Gemara. So where are we up to? We're up to the next Gemara, which everyone knows the next Gemara. So the Gemara says, "Kevin Mifti Ma'adadi," and as I said, Rashi says one of Nachman's leaving Rabbi Yitzchak, which to me doesn't sound like the Pashup Shalom reading the Gemara, but that's what Rashi says. Yeah. So when they were leaving, and the Gemara says, "Kevin Mifti Ma'adadi," when leaving one from the other, so it's very not so clear. So Amalei Livrachan Mar, she says, "Nu say something." So Rav Nachman David is saying to Rabbi Yitzchak to give him a bracha. In the same way that we had the lashon in the beginning of the Gemara, when in the beginning of the Gemara he had also said, what was the lashon in the beginning of the Gemara? He said, "Lema Mar Mils Nu say something." I give a dvartar. And now he's saying to him, "Give me a bracha, please." So I'm like, let me tell you something. Now this is from Nachman. Remember, so from Nachman, right? From Nachman, we had in brachas. Right? We had in the end of what? The end of the seventh parak, and the end of the sixth parak of brachas. Yeah, we had the Gemara there of Nachman and his wife when Ula was there and he didn't want to give her a curse of bracha, and then she starts breaking Yalta starts breaking all the curses in the house. Right? And we have the Gemara we have the Gemara in Chulun Kovtes. We Yalta says her mind about asking Rav Nachman that Kol Mad Asan LaRachman Shalom Kabasei, right? He's also, the Chazir. He's mutter the Shibuta. He's also this. So Yalta has a lot to say. Maybe I'm saying this as a joke. I have no idea. Maybe Rashi felt that couldn't be Rav Nachman's house. It had to be Rav Nachman's leaving Rabbi Yitzchak because otherwise Yalta would have been in the picture. Yeah. But listen to the bracha, and it's mashma to me that it had to be Rav Nachman's house because listen to the bracha. You see, it sounds like Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was the connection to the government. He was the powerful rabbi there in Bava. Yeah. Either way, so he says, "Amar Librachamar." I'm not going to have to give him a bracha. He says, "I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a parable to what this is comparable to." The person was going in the desert by a rob. He was very hungry. If he's tired, it's summer, he's thirsty. And he finds a tree that has delicious fruit, right? Some sort of oasis, a wadi. It has some nice shade. And has some water source. So the Imam, if he has such an enjoyment to eat some of the fruit and he drinks from the waters, sits under the shade. When he's ready to leave, he says, "Tree, how can I bless you?" I'm going to tell you that your fruits should be delicious. They are delicious. I'm going to bless you. They should have a good shade. Your shade is great. Then I'm going to tell you that you should have water flowing. You already have a water source that's flowing by you. I'm going to bless you. That all the natias, all the saplings and the plantings that are going to be grown from your tree. Then we turn the page down to Vav and Aleph. You Kamaischa should be like you. Af Atah. So too, Rabbi Yisrael says to Rabbi Nachman, how can I bless you? In the Torah, Harei Torah. I'm going to bless you that you should be learned. You have it. In the Eisher, I'm going to bless you with wealth. You have it. In the Vanim, with children, Harei Vanim, you already have children. Elihi Ratzin Sheyu I bless you, and all of your children, all of your descendants should be like you. This is obviously a famous song. Everyone knows the Gemara, but this is the unbelievable way that Rabbi Yitzchak gave a bracha to Rav Nachman, which is again to knowing Rav Nachman, the fact that he was running the base, and the fact that he was so powerful, the fact that he was so wealthy. It's sort of very apropos. Yeah. All right. So we finished the Gemara here. Now we go back to talking about the rain. So Tanur Rabbanan. Remember, we had in the Mishnah on Hamid Aleph. What did the Mishnah tell us? The Mishnah told us about Yoel, right? The pasuk was in Yoel. You remember, there was a machlekes in the Mishnah. When do you say the same Talmud to the Levracha? So we had two Mandar Maliv Jabudigmar and Ulan Dalam and Beis. And the Mishnah told us that Moshe Shalom is like a Shem Yehuda Mar Shiava Pesach. So this man, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, says that when you say the same Talmud to the Levracha is not until the first day of Pesach, right until Pesach is over. Meir said that when do you say it until? You say it until Nisan goes out, meaning you have a whole month where you still say the same Talmud. How did he know? So he said, the pasuk said, "Shenem v'yer lechem geshem meira u'malkesh b'rishain," and we ended up talking about the Gemara. This was a big nace. That year it hadn't rained till Nisan. And Mamash on the first day of Nisan it hadn't rained yet, and then on the second day it started to rain, and they ended up getting before the Eimer. They had a whole season. In 11 days they had a whole season. It was a big huge nace. Now, as you pointed out, I think then, and note again now. If you were to look at this pasuk as a raya, v'yarlechem geshem mer u'malkesh barishain, this pasuk is a raya to what? That the last rains, the malkesh, the last rains, that they fall till the 16th of Nisan. Barishan is the first month. Right? Imagine the whole month of Nisan. They fell in Nisan. The Mishnah is saying that the Shita of Reb Meir is saying that it's going to be the whole month of Nisan, and then the Gemara is explaining it as a limitation on it. It's only until the 16th this whole story happened. But in the Pashup Shah, the way the Mishnah learned was the whole month of Nisan, which would be the simple reading of the pasuk of Yer Lechem Geshem Meramagish Barishain. Okay, so the Gemara qualified it to the 16th. But Rameir understood it as the whole month, and the Pashup Shah and the pasuk was it was the whole month. Good. All right. So now we come back over here. So now the Gemara said like this: Tanur Rabbanan. So the rabbis taught as follows: Yere, right? Yere is the first rains. Right? V'satu lechem v'tarat lechem b'ita Yere u'malkesh. Right? You're going to have Yere and malkesh, two different types of rain. The Yere is the first rains, and the malkesh is the last rains. So says the Gemara. What does it mean, Yara? Shemera esabriyos. What does it mean, Mera esabriyos? It teaches the humanity. It teaches them something. What does it teach them? It teaches them lahatiach gagoy sand to fix up the roofs. Right, the rainy season's coming. You got to make sure that you're not going to have leaks. Right, so when you get that first soft rain, you say, "Oh, it's a little moist." You got to go put plaster there on the roof, fix the roof in time for the winter. Well, hachnas is perei sand. And it's going to be time now to bring in the fruit. You had the fruit outside, but now if it's going to get all messed up, it's going to get all wet, then that's not going to be good for the fruit. So, it's telling you when you see that first rain, time to bring in the fruit. And to do all that you need to do to sort of prepare for the, as Rashi says. What does it mean? You gotta prepare for the winter, whatever you need to do. So that tells you that first rain gives you that warning. It teaches you that you got to go take care of all those things. Rashi points out on the Rashi before. Look at the Rashi. So Rashi says, that's what we're talking about. The first rain. Is Revia Rishon. That's the very first rain. As we will see, it falls in Mar Cheshvan. Lama Nigar Shema Yera. Why is it teaching? Why is it called Yera? Shem Meira. It's what teaches you. It's Yera Deya, right? It's teaching you knowledge. In this case, it's teaching you to prepare for the winter. Shemar Lahen Latiach Gagasen. Betiach Shaltet Shalo Yitzvu Gisham Babayas. Right? It's teaching you to plaster your roofs so that the rains won't come in. Lachnas Perisan. So Rashi over here says that it wasn't that the fruit were outside. randomly. Shenichu b'sadish liyavshin anakshav. You actually wanted the fruits to be in there. That was your way of drying them and preserving them. But now with the rain, it's going to get ruined. So now you got to bring them in. So that's the first pshat of understanding what yer is. Davar acher, another pshat of what yer is. Shemar v'esaretz. Right, yer here is pronounced the vav. It's moistening the ground. Mashgat tahim, and it's gonna make it wet all the way to the deep. When you have a dry earth and the rain's gonna go down, so how far can it go down? I'm not 100% sure, but that is the reference to Yerush. And Emma, what is the pasuk that gives you this idea that Yera is a reference to the water coming down and going deeply in, moistening, making everything moist? The pasuk is until Tulamel Ravet, right? Over there, the Tulamim, the furrows, right, are going to get wet, right? Nachas Gidudel, right? The ridges, the lines are going to get softer. Why are they going to get softer? Because they're getting wet. Revivim to Magagna, Simcha Devarich. Again, the same idea of as the rain is coming down, so everything's sort of softening and becoming, well, I guess in the end, if they get enough rain, it becomes very muddy. But this is how things are going to grow. So the hint over here of Yereh is the moistness, says Rashi. Oh no, we didn't we don't have Rashi here. Yeah. All right, so that is the second reference. Now another Davar Acher, another one is Yereh Sheyered Ben Nachas. The Yereh is that the first rains are soft, they're soft and they're benachas. The inner Yereh bezaf. It's not coming out right. Bezaf is like strong, like angry, powerful. Rashi says, what does it mean? Sheyered benachas. Like a Rebbe who's teaching his students nicely. Like it says in Pasuk that the words of the wise are only going to be heard if they're done in a nice way. If you're screaming, you're not going to get your message across. And then we're going to have a second shot. And the second, Inami Lashon Chaitz, right? It's like a bow, like a bow and an arrow. It's like shooting. Right, now Halach b'yasher goes very straight. But in a lakan doesn't go in different directions. Right, lashon akashim it's coming la'aretz ve'en yer b'zaf. It's coming to the ground. It's not coming down with a big power. So lamel rava. Oh, there was a Rashi, yeah. So it moistens the ground. When you're moistening the furrows of the land in Israel. Why does it say Eretz Yisrael? I don't know, maybe in France or wherever. Maybe it was different. I don't know exactly. Obviously, the rainy season was different, right? It wasn't a Marchesh Nisan, as we pointed out already before, right? The different rainy season in Europe than it was in Eretz Yisrael or Bavel, etc. The ridges, the Pashup Shan Pasuk is the people. Is that the Pashup Shan Pasuk? We're talking about the land. Okay, not sure exactly, but yeah. Yeah. So again, we have now three different sort of levels of pshat about what Yera means. Either it's sort of a teacher, right? It's Meres Habrias. It is Marva, right? It's very moistening things, or it's Yera Benachas. It's coming down softly. It's coming down gently. The Gemara continues, and the Gemara says, so it's Yer Benachas Vena Yer Bezaf. Ain't a Yer Ella Shemesher Esaper. So maybe Yer should be meaning in a much more violent sense, right? Yoreh, right? If you're familiar with the Israeli army ethos, so there's a line that they say that when the Israeli soldiers shoot, they are Yoreh Uvayche or Yoreh Uvayche. What does it mean? They shoot and they cry, meaning it's not no matter whatever the guys say. It's not in the desire of the Jewish people to kill other life. They have to. Many times, right? We had brachas, right? We had a brachas on Nun Ches. More they told us about Rav Shila, the master of Shila, right? With the person we saw who was Baal and Aramis, right? So he said he gave him Malchus because he said you're guilty, right? Because you did this. Whether or not somebody would be guilty at the Rabbanan level, I'm not getting to now. But that person who got the Malchus complained. They went to the court, right? And so they said that Rav Shila was deciding the law without having an imprimatur. He didn't have the signet. He didn't have the gavel from the government. How did he have the right? So what do they more say? Rav Shila said to them that he was boil an animal. Right, so then there would be a chiyuv misa under the government law. So they said to him, why didn't you give him misa then? He said, oh, from when the Jewish people left the Sanhedrin, left the Sanhedrin left the list of Gazas, we're not allowed to do capital punishment anymore. So I will leave it to you. You can decide as you wish. Um, so they were deciding the case, and the accused says to Shila, "You're a liar. You know, mamash is chakran. You lied." He says, "I didn't lie, right? They are dem lechamar. I'm a dem lechamar. So you boil an rabbis. That means you boil an animal." So the guy's going to tell. He sees that the guy is now going to tell the court what had happened, and he's going to say that Reb Shila is a huge racist. He thinks you mamish animals. So the Gemara says that when he saw he was about to do that, so he took the gavel that they had given him to now be a judge because they saw he's a good judge, and he smacked him on the head and killed him. And what was the logic? So Sheila said, because somebody's bala hargacha, ashkim largai, somebody's coming to kill him first. Yeah. So the Israeli army, the ethos is yorel bocha. They're not looking to kill anybody. Bala hargacha, somebody's coming to kill you. Hashkim largai. Unfortunately, we know there's many people that are out to kill Yidden wherever, unfortunately, wherever in the world. So therefore, we have to be ready. And if somebody's going to come, we're not taking it sitting down. Yoreh ubocheh, we're going to shoot. We'll cry about it. We'll cry that humanity doesn't have a way to be able to get beyond it, but we're not shooting. So here we're going to change now the lashon of Yereh. Instead of being Yereh ben Nachas, it's, sweet rain, nice rain, teaching rain. No, it's Yoreh, it's shooting rain. The Gemara says maybe it means Yoreh el shemeshir saperes. It's knocking off the fruit. So this will be a later time in the season, right? We're assuming Yoreh is the first rains. Maybe it's really a late rain, right? Which is going to knock the fruit off the tree. So says the Gemara, no. Sorry, el shemeshir saperes is going to knock off the fruit. The mashatev esa zeroim are going to knock out the seeds. Mashatev esa ilanis, right? It's going to be like overwhelm them. Right, so maybe Yer is a reference to overwhelming rain, very powerful rain. Tomorrow says it can't be Tamalay or Malkush. That's what it says. Yoreh or Malkush. There's two different types of rain. Malkush is a bracha, just like the Malkush is a bracha rain, right? Af Yer is a bracha. So to the Yer is a bracha rain. Obviously, the pasuk there, if you look in Vayim Shema, you're going to say today. It's very clearly saying what Masad is going to be Itayer Magir Safdagan Nachos Yerosh, right? And later on, it's going to be when they turn around and start worshiping the idols. But at that stage, it's all bracha. That's obviously the Pashup Sham. Nevertheless, the Gemara is still asking us a question. The Gemara said, I can prove to you that it has to be a bracha because talking about Malkush, and Malkush is the end of rain, and that's a bracha. The Shot to the Yer has to be bracha. It says the Gemara. Maybe the mark is also a rough rain that knocks down the houses, the mishabas ilanas, it breaks the trees, and brings up all the grasshoppers. So that's why it says Yeres. Yeres is a good rain. That tells you about Malchus. So my Yer lebracha, half Malchus lebracha. The Gemara says, 1 second. This is not, you're not teaching me anything here. You're telling me Yer is a bracha because of Malchus. And Malchus is a bracha because of Yer. But neither one is for sure a bracha. Either one could be also a very hard rain, a powerful rain, a mean rain, of breaking everything. So how have you proven the point? And this the Gemara answers, the Yer gufino. So how do you know Yer is in fact a good thing? Dechsev. But the pasuk says, and now we get the full pasuk there. Right, the Jewish people should be happy, should be rejoicing in Hashem, your God, because He has given you the Meiret. Right, He's given you the early rains for tzedakah, for as a literally in that case tzedakah, because you hadn't had rain in Cheshvan, Kislev, right, Tevis and Adar, Shvat. You had no rain the whole time. Now you're having rain. Hashem gave it to you as tzedakah there in the beginning of Nisan. Yer Lechem, this is the puzzle we had in the Mishnah. Yer Lechem Geshem Meir U'Magish Barishan, and it landed for them rain. But over there it uses the lashon Meir U'Magish, and over there it's for sure what Gishmei Bracha. Over there it's for sure all a wonderful thing because they had no rain, and so now we know that Yer U'Magish are a siman Bracha. Good. Okay. Zot Gemara. We're at the two dots. So the Gemara says, Banan Yer Marcheshvan and Malkash Benisan. When does the year come down? It comes down in Marcheshvan. Marcheshvan is how we expect, right? That's when he's doing the Haskara. I'm sorry, the Haskara frame we're starting by Shmini Atzeres, but the She'ela, right? The She'ela, right? We're doing that in Cheshvan, right? We had either the third day of Cheshvan, the seventh day in Cheshvan, but we're having it in Cheshvan. So so the Gemara says Yer Marcheshvan Malakish B'Nisan, and the end of the rain we expect in Nisan. So it says the Maratayim Yer Marcheshvan Malakish B'Nisan, Aina Ela Yer Tishrei Malakish B'Iyar. Maybe the rain should start earlier. Maybe the Yer comes down in Tishrei, right? And the Malkash, the end of the rain, comes all the way down into Iyar. Talmud Loimar B'itai. That's a look at the pasuk again. What does the pasuk say? When Asatim Ta'artzechem B'itai Yer Malakish. It should come in its right time, right? Right? It's to come the right time. What's the right time? The right time is the early rains start in Cheshvan, and the end of the rains stop in Nisan. That's the right time. After that, it could be a Siman Kla, or before that, it could be a Siman Kla. It could be not the right time. Malkash. What about Malkash? The end of rains. When does that happen? So Amar Nilay Bar Idi, Amar Shmuel. That Rav Nilay Bar Idi said name Shmuel Davar Shmuel Kishuseyan Shel Yisrael. That what is Malkash a reference to? Malkash is a reference to the stalks, right? Of the what is the stalks? The stalks is like the hearts. It's like the hard part. Right, so mol is like the circumcised. Right, mol Hashem is the vavcha, that's the vav zarecha. Right, the Medrash says you have different types of mila. You have mila on the heart, right? There's mila on the ears, right? The mila is like you're deaf, you're not listening to Hashem. But it could be mila in different places. Obviously, the Pashup Shot, we know where the bris mila is. That's not a question, but the Gemara wants to let it out. As some of the Mepharshim point out, we talked about it in the Sunday class. I think that it was never a real question. It's part of Teresh Valpeh of trying to be the Hagim Torah idea to explain things, but it was never a substantive question like, oh, we're in doubt. Where do we do the bris mila? Oh, maybe we should do it on the heart. Maybe open a heart surgery. That's the bris mila. No, that was never a question. But in order to show all aspects of drushes in the Torah, clearly the Torah is using a lashon of mila, of circumcision on different things, not just on the area that we do it, not just on the areas of arayas, but also on the heart, also on the mouth, also on the ears, all the other parts of the body. So all there to teach you something. Yeah. So the first drush that we're dashing from Malkash is Rav Nilay Bar Idi is saying when we talk about Malkash, there's a reference to the stalk, to the strong part of the person, a human being. So we're saying it's the rain that comes about, and he's playing on the words. Malkash, right? It's mo, it's circumcising, and kaish is the strong part, the human being, the back of a person, is the stature of a person. That's the word I was looking for. So it's going to cut down the stature of a person. It's very shmol tana. Right? It's the thing that's going to fill up the wheat, the produce, right? To fill up the stalks with the rain. It's gonna the water goes into the growth, and that's how they grow, right? It's a lot of these things you can actually see the water in it, right? If you open up a vegetable, there's so much water in them. Masnisa Tana have a brayz that says davar she'ered ala melilos v'ala kashin. What malkash is a reference to? It's falling on the different parts of the grain, right? The kashin is the stalks, and the melilos is the ears, the top part of the grain. Yeah. So we have to we'll just finish the next two lines. Torah running year of Marcheshvan, Malkish Nisan. Year comes down in Marcheshvan, and Malkish comes down in Nisan. After year of Marcheshvan, Elo Marchesh Kislev. Maybe we're going to say that the year comes down later in Kislev. That the first rains come down in Kislev. No, Be'itai year Malkish. Right, it should come down in the right time, right? Be'ita, and it's mamash right time. Mamagish be'ita, half year be'ita. Just like the magish comes down in Nisan is the last rain, so too we want the year to come down in its right time, which is in what do you call in Cheshvan. Now, all right, we have to stop over here. I just wanted to say because I forgot. So we have the Gemara here about Rav Nachman or Rav Yitzchak. I have a little bit of a joke. I think it's funny, but maybe it's not so funny. You'll tell me. So Rav Nachman said to Rav Yitzchak about when he said Yaakov v'ino loy meis. So he said v'chi b'chdi saftanya v'chon chantaya v'kover kabraya. Well, he did it for nothing. that they put him in the ground and they mummified him and they this all that was for nothing. So he says, "No, make me any dersh. I'm dashing a pasuk. I'm dashing something." Well, so we explained what does it mean back and forth. There's a Gemara in Shabbos, Kuflan Beis. You look at the Gemara in Shabbos, the unbelievable Gemara. The Gemara says somebody comes to Rav Nachman and says, "Rav Nachman, I was just in the graveyard, a digger from the grave digger, and somebody spoke to me in the graveyard." Rav Nachman goes to the graveyard to check it out. And so the Gemara says, Rav Nachman says, by the voice where the guy heard the grave digger, he says to him, "What's your name?" He gives him a name, Rav Shai. So he says, "Oh, are you real?" He says, "What do you mean?" Rav Nachman says, "Because you're supposed to be the dust. You're supposed to be a dust. You turn to the dust when you go." He says, "No." So he says, then he touches him. He says, "You have my mushes. Come to my house. I can't leave. Don't you know the psukim?" And he keeps on hassling Rav Nachman, saying that he doesn't know psukim. That obviously he has a voice. He has someone alive. But he's dead. So the back and forth in that Gemara, to me, must have all happened after this Gemara. Because how would he have had a question of Yaakov Avinu Mace? If he had spoken to the dead guy in the graveyard and had a whole back and forth conversation, debate, if you're alive, not alive, all the different phases of existence, which all these multi-dimensions, which I have no understanding of, he would have not asked this question, presumably. He would have been able to say, okay, Yaakov Avinu Mace. In that dimension, of course, that I met that guy. So this Gemara must have happened before. It's good.